and nuisance abandoned properties. And then Captain Todd Clemente will be speaking about crime statistics and trends from April 1st of 24 until June 30th of 2024. Okay, Mike?
Good evening. I'm Mike Basmanian, Director of Code Enforcement here at the City of West Dallas. I've been here for about 2 years now, and I'm going to talk tonight, like you said, about property maintenance and code enforcement. If you have questions, feel free to jump in at any time as I'm going through the slides. We'll get going. So I'll try not to just read to you because nobody likes to just have slides read to them, but this is just our mission. So we try to take a collaborative approach, both internally and externally to the work that we do, and trying to make the city a better, healthy, safe place for residents to live. So it's just kind of an overview of how our department's organized. So we have kind of two divisions, our property maintenance and our construction trades. So our property maintenance deals primarily with the property complaints, maintenance issues, nuisance properties. But all of our inspectors, when they're in the field, they're aware of what's going on. They're part of the team that tries to make the city a better place. So they'll make referrals and identify things and make sure that if there are problems, they're getting addressed by our team. So we have basically kind of two approaches to property maintenance. We do it proactively, and we also respond to complaints. So as we're out driving around, we are aware of conditions that we see, and we'll write those up or try to make contact with property owners to get them to resolve the problems or try and help them. If there's maintenance issues, there's always the option of trying to see if the city has resources available to help property owners bring their property into compliance. But these are just some of the examples of the things that we see. I'm sure that you see them too: tall grass, abandoned vehicles, kind of the full gamut of problems that we can see out there within the community. So more specifically, like, what is a public nuisance? So these are the problems that we identify that kind of morph into something else, or that go to a point where they don't get resolved and we have to take further action. So it can really be anything. It can be an activity or a house or rodents. It could be a smell. It can really be any range of things that are causing detriment to the community. So I apologize if this is any of your backyards, but you can see, by the scope of these things, that these are kind of beyond your general property maintenance issues. So, we have illegal auto repair, hoarding, there are problems, trash that just gets absolutely out of control. A lot of times the problems are rooted, with either some kind of mental health disorder or substance abuse problems. So we have to kind of try and bring in other resources to help us get these problems resolved and try and help the property owner bring their property into compliance. I mean, that's really our goal, is to try and be able to help people, get things cleaned up and get it back into a good state of repair. So how do we identify these things? So kind of like I said before, we look at them proactively, or we respond to complaints from you as community members. We work very closely with the city attorney's office once we get to this point to kind of build a case and collect evidence so that, if this problem doesn't get resolved or we're unable to get action or resolution with the property owner, that we can then get their assistance to take further legal action or take further enforcement action. So some of the options that we have, we can charge reinspection fees, issue citations, go through municipal court. Right now we have one property that I'm aware of that we have in circuit court, so we've gone through the municipal court action that hasn't gotten any results. So we've taken it to circuit court now and are looking to potentially get receivership to be able to take action to make the repairs to this property, because the owner is just not capable, or has shown that he's not capable of actually doing that work, and it's posing a significant hazard to the public. So we rely on them very heavily to help us navigate that legal process. We've also raised properties before, kind of going through the same steps, so it doesn't get repaired or the owner does not repair it or raise it themselves. So we take action, contract, and have, garages or properties that are unsafe throughout the community taken down. It's short but sweet, but this is a picture of our team at Frank Lloyd Wright Elementary. We go out, talk to the community, talk to the kids there, and kind of tell them about what we do. Happy to answer any questions that anyone has. Yes, sir.
I have a property next to me now. It's the whole Chuck Nation owns it. They had it and they abandoned it for a couple of years, and they put a fellow into it, which I thought was a good deal. He's a vet like me, and he wanted to get his master's degree, and that was fine. But he left 2 years ago. Now it's since there again. This spring, the grass grew waist high, and finally I called, and they did cut the grass. But the point behind it is, it just sits there. It's vacant. It's not maintained. The service door on it failed, and they had to put it in, and it's sitting there. It's not terrible, but it's vacant. My question, what I would like to see is call the whole Chuck and say either use it or lose it. I need a neighbor is what I really want.
Sure. Yeah.
But I talked to the mayor and the coffee with the mayor, they're aware of the problem, but it just sits there. I don't know what their plan is.
Yeah. If you can give me the address of the property when I'm done up here, we can look at it. I can see if we have any case history there. We could designate it nuisance abandoned if no one's been there for 2 years, and that at least will provide notification to the owner and try and reach out, see if they have a plan for it. But at least that way, if we get that status, then we provide them with notice that the grass isn't being cut. When it doesn't get cut, we don't have to wait that period to provide them with notice again. We just have our contractor go do it. So if you're not going to maintain it, then the city will take action to maintain the property for you, or even resolve some of the maintenance issues that are ongoing there.
They had a guy hired to do this. I don't know how many buildings they got like this in the city, apparently more than one. And he quit. So he was using the building for storage, the house and all that for storage. Well, he's gone this spring, and they apparently hired this grass service after I complained, and they do cut it now. But it just sits there. So that's my issue.
Okay, yeah, give me the address when I'm done up here. I'll take it. Yes, sir.
This one?
Yes, you.
I think it's important that everybody knows how long this process really can take, because a lot of people are under the assumption that, hey, I call you guys and, 2 weeks, everything's gonna be, people need to be aware of all of those steps, all the way up to taking it to circuit court, and what that time frame really can involve. But some of this stuff, I think, can go on for years.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point, and I appreciate you bringing that up. He's correct. I mean, some of these things do take years to get resolved, literally. So our orders are generally, depending on the severity of the issue that we find, 10 days, 30 days, 90 days if it's a more significant property maintenance issue. But then when we get beyond that and people aren't taking action, then, we send further notice. It gets scheduled for court. If it goes to municipal court first, and say we get a judgment against the owner, and that still doesn't get action, then we can try and take it to circuit court. But those things take a lot of time. The one I referenced before, started over a year ago with the maintenance issues that are happening on this building, and we're going through the process now. It's in circuit court, and there's a case coming up, I think, in a week or so, but it's taken over a year since we identified the problem and provided notice to the owner. So I know it looks like nothing's happening, but usually there's always something happening behind the scenes, even though you don't see action. I know how frustrating that can be. Well, it'll follow up, and then I'll come. Yeah, sorry.
Follow-up, if I was to file a complaint, not anonymously, put my name, address, blah, 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 all that in there, is there follow-up with the person that filed the complaint? Not in great detail, but something to the effect of, hey, we're working on it, we're at this stage, that stage. I don't know if that happens, but if it doesn't, then again, people are left hanging like, I called up, there it sits.
Yeah, so if you if you put a complaint in our system, there isn't a box where you can check if you'd like us to follow up with you. Now, that's more on the initial. Once they get further out and you don't see action, if you call us though, you know, we're happy to tell you where it's at. We can look in our system and tell you, you know, where the cases are at, so. Okay.
I was just gonna tell you as well, sorry, I don't know your name. I know for myself as an elder, and I can't speak for all, but I'm pretty sure it's the same. When somebody reaches out to me with something that ends up having to be a code enforcement issue, I try to stay in touch with that person until it's complete. Until I know that everything's been done on their end, so that we're not constantly, like, we're a go-between almost, so that we can help you know when things are being done and what we've done and the communication we've gotten from code enforcement. So that helps.
Yes.
Mike, I see that you kind of went over kind of the basics of what, code enforcement and what you deal with for complaints. One of the biggest complaints and most common, summer or winter, grass, snow. Can you explain the protocol? Because that seems to be the most common complaint. So when you make a complaint and it's submitted to your department, do people have to continuously complain? Will they be put on a list? That sort of information. Because also the volume of complaints that come in and who takes care of them. Because a lot of people think that the city comes in and does the cutting or the snow removal.
Sure. It can happen a couple different ways. So if you have a property and you refer it to us, we'll generally provide notice to the owner that this needs to happen. If that doesn't happen, we have a contractor. We'll attempt contact again and tell them, you know, if you don't do this, we're going to have our contractor, you know, either cut the grass or shovel the snow. They don't do that. We have our contractor do it. That case stays kind of in our queue, so that if they continually fail to address those issues, cut the grass or shovel the snow, we can then keep our contractor, you know, going out there to address those issues.
Okay, and just as a follow-up, do you notify the resident each and every time? Or is it like, okay, you put on, kind of, it's in the system, now if there's another complaint, you don't have to send another 5-7 days to correct?
Correct. Yeah, we don't have to notify them again. We provide them with that notification, we attempt contact, and then once that property is, I guess, in violation, and then we have to abate it, at that point, we can continually address the problem if it arises again.
A double follow-up. How much is it gonna cost the resident who does not do their due diligence to maintain their grass and weeds, and a contractor has to come out, same as snow?
So it's based on frontage. Dan, you can help me out here. 60 feet? Okay.
Yeah, so if your lot's under 60 feet, it's $300. If it's 61 feet or above for the width of it, it's $350. And then we do have a $150 charge if it's just meets around the garage. So those are the three fees that we'll charge for the grass cutting. And snow is, residential is $100 plus $1 a foot, and commercial is $300 plus $1 a foot for a linear foot of sidewalk.
Okay, so it's not cheap.
No, a lot more.
And that's the biggest complaint is when they do get the bill, like it's ridiculous how much the city's charging, it's because we don't want to, you know, so.
Decent consequence, thank you.
Yeah.
And it goes right on the property tax bill. If they do not pay it, yes.
Yes, sir.
What's the threshold for number of incidents and time frame before it gets elevated to nuisance property?
It kind of depends on the nature of the problem. I'm trying to think of an example, but it kind of depends on the severity of it, I think. I think we could probably pursue that right out of the gates if it's a serious detriment to the community. Generally, if it's, say, a maintenance issue that's posing some type of a hazard to the public right-of-way, we'll provide one notification that says you have to do this, and then if they fail to make the repairs, we'll send it to municipal court or ask that it be, you know, prosecuted. Then it goes through a judgment, and then we have options to potentially take it to circuit court for further action.
Have there been any properties this year that you consulted with
Yeah, I think it's a fairly regular process for us. You know, if these issues aren't getting addressed, you know, that's really the best course of action that we have to try and,
Ballpark number how many did?
boy, you know, that I don't.
What, like nuisance action, like for circuit court? I would
No,
say,
for being deemed a nuisance property,
oh,
for the city municipal.
Is there 12? Go ahead.
added nuisance properties to the list this year
Okay.
for 6 months. So we have
Yeah.
about 35 on the list now. For nuisance actions where a city attorney had to go to circuit court, I want to say like 4 or 5 we have right now, which those are like involving, one in 2022, we started a bunch of stuff in the yard and garage needs some work. Went to municipal court, you know, $10,000 fine, another $10,000 fine, no action, took it to circuit court. Judge, after 2 times in circuit court, allowed the city to go on and clean up the property. So we removed all the junk out of the yard and had the garage painted. And it was in the 2800 block of 99th Street. So, and we're dealing with one on 72nd and Greenfield now, and another, couple apartment complexes, 2 of them actually, like 1700 block of 69th Street area. We're got down the nuisance, status right now for circuit court.
That works, 'cause I dealt with West House meeting at my problem neighbor deemed one of those in a overreach channel. We're great.
Good. Yes.
Actually, a compliment. In 2011, a neighbor had complained about our garage, who's it's built anyway. But we got the notice 2 days after my husband had lost his job. So we're like, and it stated we had like, it was painting and some wood to be replaced. And we're like, I'm not sure we can afford to do that. So we called the coding office and they're like, let's work with you, it's not a problem. So they gave us an extension so that we could get it fixed. It wasn't this hard line, well, you don't do it and we're not gonna work with you, don't call the office, because they worked with us extensively to get, so we can get that done in a timely fashion. So we were very happy with that, so as long as you ask and, you know, ask nicely, they will work with you, so.
Great. I have to give Dan credit for that one. That was before my tenure. So Dan Adamczyk is our code enforcement supervisor here. So you know, he's responsible for all of this. But yeah, we're absolutely willing to work with people that reach out to us and, you know, need help or need time. If there's resources available, we'll work with our housing department to try and find those resources to help people bring their properties into compliance. So. All right. Well, thank you.
I thought I was going to have more time. I thought he would take a little longer, but thankfully you asked him questions. Let's just save the questions for a different time. I'm Captain Clementi, the West Dallas Police Department. My current assignment is I oversee the patrol bureau, so our entire patrol area. So the cops that you're seeing out in the squad cars, that is who I would primarily deal with on a regular basis. And we can get right into the slides. All right, there are Part 1 offenses for difference between last year and this year. I apologize, there is one mistake. We had a very large drop for motor vehicle theft, and it looks like we had a big increase, but we actually had a decrease there. So that should be minus 36.9%. So overall, numbers look good. You only have literally 2 increases there, and they're fairly minor, being the aggravated assaults and our burglaries. So now we can get kind of a little bit of a deeper dive into those. All right, robberies compared to last year, you obviously can see that we had a huge drop in robberies as compared to last year between April and June. Last year, a total of 20, this year, 7. That's a significant drop for us. When I looked at them as a whole, kind of dug a little deeper in them, and many of them, we all worry as citizens, if we're out and about, are we going to be out and about just doing our normal daily stuff? And are we going to be assaulted or the victim of a robbery on the streets? And really, in the city of West Dallas, the answer is no. For the majority of people, you'll come and go freely, have no issues. And that would be the case here with robberies. The bulk of the ones that we did have, of the 7, They were related to some sort of retail theft or things of that nature, where somebody went in, committed a retail theft. In the course of that retail theft, they made a threat that they were going to harm or did something to the clerk when they were tried to be stopped. And that was where it generated the robbery out of it. There was a threat of force. We did have a couple of stranger incidents that's fairly unusual for us. We don't have a lot of stranger type crimes, but one of them was somebody that is homeless that gave somebody their phone, and that individual then punched them in the face and ran off with their phone. Another individual was at one of the I believe it was a Taco Bell, and he was I believe he was a homeless gentleman, mental health issues. He ended up assaulting somebody else over a bag or something of that nature. In that case, we made an arrest. In the individual who had his phone stolen, we did not make an arrest because the gentleman didn't have a lot of information other than, I got punched in my face and my phone is gone. And the last one, we had another stranger incident. That was another case in which we made an arrest also because they had a good description and we had the ability to get there quickly on scene and effect an arrest based on the information provided. But all in all, they were, of the stranger ones, 2 out of the 3 we ended up solving and determining. Another one of the retail theft ones, we were able to get on scene and get good information. Made an arrest at that time. Another one there, I think they're still working on trying to find, they've identified the target, but they just haven't gotten to arrest that individual yet. So still working on them, but like I said, overall, our robberies are not, for the most part, are not something that you're walking down the street and you're going to get, somebody is going to approach you and try to commit a strong arm robbery or something of that nature. So there's no discernible pattern, or I guess when you go to the next, really the one pattern you can see is the fact the bulk of them there are on National Avenue, they're on major thoroughfares. So in which people are walking or always moving about, and that is the only discernible pattern from it. And that's not even a typical thing that many times they're scattered. This is kind of an unusual thing where they all kind of had in a congregate area, which in this case is right around 60 and National. A very busy area, a lot of people moving about, different gas stations there. We do have a fair amount of drug activity from time to time at the gas stations in there. So it's just one of those things. When I look at it, it's not really a surprise because it's where there's a lot of people, bus stops, people moving constantly. So although it's one of the few times I've actually seen a specific pattern of any times I've done one of these, so that is kind of new. But like I said, that's the reason is it's just because it's very busy in that area. There's lots of people moving around. Go to the next one. Burglaries, a slight uptick. I looked at I tried to go through as many of the burglaries because you can see the bulk of them are residential, but that can sometimes be misleading. That sometimes is when you're looking at apartment complexes and things of that nature. If it is a storage area, it's still considered residential. It is not a garage. It's not a business. But so it looks like somebody broke into someone's house, but that isn't it. We've also had a bunch. We had different ones that were apartment thefts, where like some of our senior facilities, where people were reporting minor things being gone. Some jewelry, and I think somebody had a safe that was missing. Things of that nature. We've made 5 arrests of those 33 cases, but a lot of them are. I came home and this is gone. I have a time frame. I have no suspects. When some of these individuals did have suspects, it was family members that we couldn't prove that they did it. Friends. So I had this gentleman has keys to my house. I think he did it. Things of that nature. So once again, not strangers, somehow linked to somebody in that home. So it's not that people are just kicking in doors and stealing things. The issue you do have is garages. Garages are always susceptible to it, especially if you're on an alley. I lived in the city, had a garage. It wasn't an alley, but I've been through enough different alleys through here to know that that's a point of weakness for people. Because you don't pay attention to what's going on in your alley because you're inside your house. Even if you look out your back door or look out your back window, you see the part of your garage in front of you. You don't see where the door is. You don't see, if your overhead garage door is open or closed. So it's a matter of safeguarding. Remember that to try to prevent things from happening. If you leave a car outside, don't leave the garage door opener in your car if you're going to leave it outside, because it's just a simple way to get in. They pop the garage door, there it goes up. If you have a pedestrian door, secure it well, make sure it's always locked. You can also, if you can, have a bar. If you don't need to go in and out of that door, you can put a bar across it, put a big padlock on it, whatever you need to make it the most secure, because your property is valuable to you. And as we move through the summer, as we get closer to the winter, snowblower thefts go up, things of that nature. Right now, summer, leave your garage door open in an alley, somebody drives through it, they say, hey, that's a really nice lawnmower that you just got. Well, they might want to liberate your lawnmower from you, just because it's easy. So make sure that when you have an alley, you're doing the things to protect yourself. You're closing your garage door. If you're not in your garage, close your garage door. Don't leave your garage door open so everybody can see what's all the valuables that you have in it. If you're a mechanic and you have a giant tool set or things of that nature, you don't need to advertise for everybody to see what you have in their garage, because if people will come and go down alleys all the time, I'm sure people in here that have alleys and they see vehicles just traverse through them that they don't recognize. Well, in some cases, those people are window shopping. They want to see what you have in your garage so that maybe they can come back later. So try to be cognizant of what you're doing and what you're allowing people to see and what you're advertising so that you don't become a victim. The idea is always make it more difficult for them to figure out who is an easy target. And you can go once again, stay with the map. You're going to see the burglary map of it's all over. There's no pattern. There's not one area. You will see more sometimes on the east end of the city because of the burglaries to garages and things of that nature, where on the west end of the city, most people or many people have a driveway with a garage. And if I'm a criminal, I'm not going to want to walk up your driveway, because now it exposes me to what if you're in your kitchen. Now you look, I can't run, I'd have to run past your house, through your driveway. It just, they take easy targets. So that's why garages and alleys are far more susceptible than your other garages. We can move on to aggravated assaults. Once again, we had a small uptick, one more than last year. When you're looking at the numbers here, the biggest thing is the non-family. When that piques people, like, oh my God, am I going to be walking down the street? Is somebody going to beat me up? And the answer is no. Once again, no, because non-family simply just means we're not related. But that doesn't mean I don't know you. And unfortunately, what we see, and far too often, is it's fights between people, fights between friends, maybe an ex-girlfriend, a lot of, in some cases they're no longer together, but it's still a DV relationship of things of that nature. So yes, it's reckless driving. When we get into pursuits, I believe they consider that in road rage incidents. So it just depends. The firearms, our shots fired calls go into this, and unfortunately, like many other areas in the world, especially in the United States, we have far more guns involved now, and we have a lot more shots fired where maybe we do find what we go there and we find what they shot at, or if they shot at a car or they shot at a specific person, but we're getting more calls of just shots fired where we get there and we can find evidence of that gunshots took place because there's casings, but we don't know the circumstances. There's no victim. There's nobody around, but we have clearly evidence that something took place, so it becomes part of the aggravated assault. So it's somewhat misleading, but it is still a statistic, and that would be one of those non-family, and that's where your firearms comes. So on the families are exactly what they look like. They're whether it be a domestic violence relationship, in some cases the child abuse, that gets tossed into the family one. So once again, I will say the same thing I say to, when this one comes up, we can't choose our family, and these things do happen from time to time, but it's the non-family relationships. It's your friends. Know who you're associating with. Surround yourself with good people that don't tend to overindulge in alcoholic beverages, where then they get into fights and things of that nature. And that's another thing that often fuels these, is it's usually alcohol related at some point in a conversation. It turns to a fight, which then turns to some sort of violence. And you'll see in this one, though, once again, there will be no discernible pattern. You will see that there is more on our east end of our city, and I really don't know what the cause would be for that. It could be a socioeconomic thing, but we see far more houses are tighter, there's a lot more people, it's more congested, and things of that nature. But once again, there's no specific pattern as to what is happening. The next category took another big drop for us, and that's motor vehicle thefts. Last year, 65. This year, 41. Or this year, in that same time period, 41. We do an awful good job at when our officers are on the streets. They're constantly stopping cars. A lot of the times, if you have people coming into the city and they're going to steal cars, they're usually driving a stolen car. So we're getting a lot of people on the way in, or as they're traversing through our city. Our officers are very, very proactive in trying to stop as many possible cars as they can. Things that look out of the realm of out of the norm, they'll make a traffic stop. They'll investigate, and in some cases, they make that traffic stop, and that individual will take off, which turns into pursuit. And then we may find out that this is a stolen car that just has not yet been reported. So being proactive really helps kind of keep some of these numbers down. Yes, ma'am.
Captain Clemente?
Yes.
With those numbers going down, that's awesome.
Yep.
How much do you feel the department attributes to that, our investment in the flock camera system?
For us, the flock camera system goes beyond just this particular, this one statistic of motor vehicle theft. I believe flock cameras for us has been huge in just overall investigations. We've pulled leads that we may have never had before, because when things happen, you can look at the general idea of what came in through the city. You can, if you have a description of a car, if you have a partial plate, we can dig into the camera system and find out, did that car hit on a specific camera? Is it going a different direction? We can use that for so many different things. It's been such a wonderful tool. But in addition, if you have somebody that is involved in a crime in another community, or a stolen car, or things of that nature, or something that is wanted, reference, nothing to do with West Dallas, if it's in the flock system and it shows up in our city, there's a high probability it's going to go past the camera. And as soon as it goes past that camera, it notifies the squads, it notifies dispatch and the officers that have it up in their car, and they can instantaneously say, okay, well, where is it? All right, it just went by this camera. What direction is it heading? And they can, for a corny thing, they can flock to it. And that helps. And they may not always find it. I mean, that's just reality, because it goes down a different way. It turns this way, or maybe it loops out. But if they are going there, they can get there, and they can kind of coordinate their response. And we are finding that we can get a lot of these cars. And if we can stop them, hopefully they stop. Otherwise, we will pursue them if need be. We do, unfortunately, a fair number of pursuits. But ultimately, I think people know that. The criminal side knows that both West Dallas will find you, and we will pursue you if need be. And that's a difference than some other communities. So there is liability, there are things that go with it, but we try to do it as safe as possible and with the best interest of the community. And we're constantly evaluating what we're doing while we're in the middle of these pursuits to make good, solid decisions. And if we make a mistake, we deal with it. So the flock camera has been huge for us. I mean, more cameras are great. The beauty of it is other communities are doing it. We can see their cameras, they can see our cameras. Not only are communities doing it, businesses are getting into it. Walmart's, different shopping centers, they have flock cameras, and we're all tied into the same system. So if somebody steals your car, Suzette, and they're out tootling around in it, we can drop your plate into the thing and find out, whoa, that car was last seen going here. So it may have left our city, but now we can see that it just hit off a camera in Menominee Falls, or it hit someplace else. So we can kind of get an idea of where it went. Or let's say it's not a stolen car. Let's say you're a missing person, and we're trying to figure out where that missing person is, or an endangered person, and we can put it in the system. We can see where that car has been. Or let's just say we now have a license plate of a potential suspect for something. The car doesn't have to be entered into flock, and it's always grabbing the information that we can then look to see, well, what flock cameras has it hit off recently? Oh, it just hit off of one in Tosa. All right, well, we can, and if it's recent, maybe it has a pattern of it's always in this area at this time, and we can then try to use that for investigation to maybe be in that area at about that time when it's typically there. So it has been a game changer for us. It's been a really huge and wonderful investment for the police department and really for the community as a whole, because I think our numbers, as a general rule, have come down because of things like that. So, I mean, I don't know if the chief would agree with that.
Yeah, and it alerts us, like Todd said earlier, the people that steal cars, typically stolen cars, so the system can alert us to a steal entering the city, and we get up on it fairly quickly. It cannot steal 1, 2, 3 more cars.
In my career, and I've been here for a long enough time, that I've seen where it's not uncommon 15 years ago, 10 years ago, that we would have an alley, per se, or even several houses that would get burglarized, or vehicles would get broken into in just a quick succession. You'd have somebody would come in, and they'd pound through a neighborhood, and they'd hit 17 garages in a neighborhood. And it's hard to believe that this is the tie, but I believe it's because those people were coming in probably stolen cars or as part of other things, that they don't do that. I think we've had one recently where they had multiple cars that were broken into or entered, and it turned out it was one of our own citizens and his friend, that they hit several different cars in the neighborhood. But we haven't seen things like that, and we used to see that quite frequently, where literally we would be policing in one spot, and all of a sudden, in another spot, they'd have 12 garage break-ins. And that was difficult to deal with because we were in the area, we were around, we just weren't there. And since Flock has come in, things like that, or incidents like that, have really gone down. So it's the only common denominator I can put together, going, we're super proactive. Like I said, our cops are out there stopping people left and right. We're making more traffic stops every year than we did the year before, and I think we'll probably hit a record number of traffic stops this year. And that's, if we're getting you coming in, or we're getting you going out, or we're getting you driving around, eventually you're going to realize we don't want to come into the city of West Allis because some cop is going to stop us. And if we're in there for nefarious reasons, they're going to figure it out. Or if I'm a criminal, I probably have not worried about whether I've paid my traffic ticket, so I probably have a suspended license, or I probably don't have registration. So it's just one of those things that if we can get you either coming, going around, or getting out, that helps all of us. I mean, when I worked in the drug unit for a few years, and people did not want to come into the city of West Allis to sell drugs because they knew how active our drug unit was, how good they were, how willing they were to go out there, and we were out there to try to find the drug dealers. We would try to do things, and they would say, well, we'll meet you somewhere else. We're not going to meet you here. And that's great for us. That's great for the citizens. It's great for the people. It doesn't mean that things don't end up here, but because I know they do, because our officers are finding a lot of drugs and guns. So people are still coming in. And like I said, we'll stop you. And if you choose to run, we will chase you. And that gets around. I mean, it just does. That people hear about it and people don't want to come back in here. So
My follow-up is just a compliment to the department, the chief, and everybody who tries to stay ahead of the criminal. And I think you guys are doing an outstanding job.
we appreciate that. Thank you. Trevor, you can move to the next one. They'll give you so there's no discernible idea. The only thing that you're going to see is motor vehicle thefts. A lot of times are happening on the major thoroughfares. So places where you can get in and out. I'm not going to steal a car where I have to weave around a neighborhood. If I can get the car, I can jump on 60th Street, I can jump on Greenfield, I can jump on National, I can get to a freeway quickly. That's where I'm going to go. So that's the only common denominator of being in big theft. But the reality is we're always on those streets. So we're always on 60th. We're always up and down Greenfield. We're always up and down National. We're on Mitchell. We're on the major streets, Highway 100, Beloit, Lincoln. We cruise up and down those all the time. That's our way, just like it's their way to in and out of our city. It's our way through our city as fast as we can get to different places. So we're always there. There's just one of those things that you're always going to have people using opportunity, crimes of opportunity, or if they're there to look for that particular thing. Yes, sir. CAT, Combat Auto Theft. We don't do that anymore. I don't know why, I don't know, for you, those who don't know, when I was CAT was, and I'm not sure if it was the same in Milwaukee, but essentially, you sign it, you put a sticker in your window, you sign an acknowledgement on a piece of paper, a pledge that says after, was it 2 o'clock in the morning, or was it midnight? 2 a.m. After 2 a.m., this car shouldn't be, if you see this car on the street at 2 a.m. and it's got this sticker on, that meant it probably was stolen. And we treated it, we did high-risk stops on them, and we treated it as it was stolen. And sometimes the unfortunate thing is it wasn't stolen, it was actually the owner driving the car. So it got a little traumatic from time to time, and I'm not quite sure if that's why it phased out, just because people that might want to be out later at night and they forgot that they had their sticker in the back, they didn't like 5 cops rolling up on them and ordering them out of a car and having him face down and then realizing, well, sorry, sir, we saw the sticker, we didn't mean, so I think it just kind of phased out at some point. But yeah, I do remember the days because I can specifically recall doing that exact thing on National Avenue by the freeway at like 3 in the morning on somebody with a cat, and it turned out it was the actual owner. And they were very nice about it because they understood, our fault, we forgot we had the sticker, but a little uncomfortable for a little bit. So the last part is just thefts in general. Once again, dropped quite significantly, even shoplifting, but that's really the bulk of, a lot of the bulk is what we're gaining is shoplifting. You have the theft from motor vehicles. That could be anything, that could be, parts, but in many cases it's people's stuff. And the same thing I will tell everybody all the time is, if you have valuables, don't leave them in your car. You would be shocked at how many people leave a gun in a car. Don't know why. But yeah, my 357 was stolen from my glove compartment. I forgot it in there. Cops we on occasion make mistakes, and we have had cops have, duty gear stolen. So we all forget to do things from time to time, or we just take a chance that somebody's not gonna break into it. But if you leave something in it and they're walking down an alley, a 15 or 16-year-old kid is bebopping down the alley and he's kind of looking through cars and he sees what if there's something in it, it looks like a laptop might be in it, well, you might lose a window because of it, and it turns out it's not. They don't care, they just move on to the next one. So please, when you park your car, take your laptop, take your cell phones, take things out there that give the appearance of valuables. Take your firearms. Don't leave those things in there. It just is a beacon. They see it and that's easy picking. And that's the unfortunate thing, is that somehow we get some of the guns that are on the street is because just people forget. They're or they're careless about it. They don't think about it. They forget that they put it in the glove box, and they just go on with their day. And that's when bad things happen. So we need to be cognizant of when we do park our car, well, what do we leave in it? Do we leave our garage door clicker in it? Did my wife put her purse behind the seat and then forget about it? So you gotta look. Before you get out, look around. What might I lose if I leave my car here? So it's the same. It's always the same thing. It's being aware of your surroundings, being cognizant of what you're doing, and just trying to make yourself less of a victim. That should be the goal for everybody, every citizen, everybody that's, when you're walking on the street, pay attention to your surroundings. Just don't be so focused on the phone that's in front of you as you walk around, because people pay attention. Criminals pay attention to what you're doing, and they feed off of us. They feed off of our foolishness if we're just earbuds on or earphones on or whatever, and you're just paying your attention to your phone. They watch that, and they will take advantage of the opportunities that we give them. So try to lessen the opportunities. Make yourself a more difficult victim, because they're not going to move on. They're not going to deal with you if you don't give them a reason to. They'll move on to somebody else. That's not good for the next person. But if we all are paying attention, maybe we'll all be better people and we won't have as many victims, because they just will move to something else. So no real, if you go to the next slide, there's no real, I think no, there isn't. They didn't care about where the thefts were. They're everywhere. Apparently they're everywhere. So there's no discernible pattern. I'm going to go off the script here just for a moment, just because it's something I deal with on a regular basis, and I think there's some confusion on it. So whoever is either watching or you guys, the city has done a good job of creating a lot of platforms to report things, whether it be for, through OpenGov, through our Let Us Help things, through the reckless driving initiatives, through the aldermen, through all different platforms. The difficult thing is when people navigate these platforms and they don't really understand, what should I put on, what should I do in a OpenGov complaint? What should I call the police department for? So I get a lot of them. Everything funnels to me typically when it comes like for a police matter. It'll typically funnel to me. It'll funnel through Lieutenant Pezdera and then to me. But the unfortunate thing is some of these things, they funnel to him and he might be gone for the day, and then so he doesn't get to it till the next day or 2 days. So then I get it and it might be 2 days old, and by that time that complaint may not be valid anymore or even important because it's a parking complaint that's in the moment. So when people are looking at making a complaint or trying to figure out what system do I navigate, if it's something that's immediate, something that needs to be addressed in the moment, parking complaint, a disorderly individual, somebody that's driving recklessly, just call 302-8000 and ask to speak with an officer or have it, somebody dispatched to you versus getting online.
Zero, when you dial that number, press 0, that gets you straight to dispatch.
There you go. There's the tip from Alderman Haas. So yeah, press 0, it'll bypass their phone tree and it should get you to dispatch and talk to a dispatcher, tell them what the problem is so they can dispatch an officer to you. Otherwise, the difficulty I have is sometimes, and there are times where things have gotten caught up in the system and for whatever reason, I don't get it for weeks later. And then I get people that are very angry at me why we didn't address their problem. And I can usually navigate through it. But the result is I would rather have us address your issue in the moment if it's something that needs to be addressed now than versus having to try to figure out saying, I'm sorry, I can't do anything about that because that car's gone or whatever it is. I would rather people, if it's something that needs to be addressed in the moment, please just call 302-8000, go to the phone tree, hit 0, it'll bounce you to dispatch. If it's something that's an ongoing problem that isn't need to be addressed in the moment because it's going to be there tomorrow, by all means, you can go through the Let Us Help form through OpenGov. It's, like I said, if it's a reckless driving and you're already gone, but you have video of it, there's a reckless driving form that you can fill out and send it to us. Just please make sure those incidents took place in the city of West Allis, not in Milwaukee County, somewhere else, because that's something we get also. So just trying to make sure that you're doing the right platform. And if you're confused, you're not quite sure, 302-8000. Just call and get a dispatcher, and you can explain it to them, and we'll deal with it. And like I said, I would rather have people get service right away than be disappointed the fact that whatever they were looking to accomplish didn't get accomplished because it got jumbled up or it was just the wrong platform for things to do. Yes, ma'am.
Could you address the interface between the West Dallas Police Department and the 911 operators?
As far as what? I mean, how? I mean, we have on site. Our 911 operators are on site. So if you're calling 911, you're going to get a West Dallas dispatcher on the phone. That's who answers our phone, and they're immediately going to connect you to whatever services you need, whether it be police or fire. So any 911 call that's coming in should come directly to our department. So not another dispatch center. It's going to come to West Dallas Dispatch, and they're going to be able to dispatch to us specifically. Yes, that's new. Yep, that's a new thing. So that's the way, because it used to bounce to the sheriff's department, and the sheriff's department would then they would take it, they would triage it, then they would turn it and bounce it to us, and you'd have to go through the same process. They'd ask the same questions, they do the same thing. So
I'll give you a lifeline.
yeah,
So a great thing that we have in this city is our own dispatch center, and the elected leaders of the city last year approved our request to directly receive cellular 911 calls. So in the old days, if you called by landline, and we have far less of them, it went to our center. If you called by cell phone, it went to the sheriff, who could take a minute, 2 minutes to triage the call, transfer it to West Dallas, and for us to need the same minute before you're even getting resources that are thinking about coming and helping. So it's been a great shift for our dispatch center.
Does that answer? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
When a license plate or a car is dropped into the flock system for whatever reason, is that like a regional database or does it become nationwide?
It all depends on who's putting it in there and for what. It said we can kind of control where it is. So we can do something that just hits our cameras only. Let's say I want to know, I'm doing an investigation and I want to know when this car is coming into the city of West Dallas. I can trigger it so it just hits our cameras. So it'll notify us when our cameras get it. It'll hit every other camera, but it will make no notifications. So you can kind of key it as to what you need. If it's a significant, let's say it's a homicide suspect, it would trigger it. It should trigger nationwide potentially, depending on how you set it up. It's just a matter of what permissions or what settings you give it. That's really what it comes down to. That's true. Yep. It would be driven by the agency that actually inputs it into the system. We can click the right button, say, all right, this is just for our cameras, our notification, or for me personally. Like I can have it just notify me, even though it's going to go by everybody's camera. It would just notify me of where it is or what its patterns are. So it just kind of depends on who's doing it and for what reason.
And we have had out-of-state cars, stolen cars, violent crime cars that we've gotten alerts on. So one I remember was like Colorado, back about 6 months ago. We kept seeing it, kept chasing it, it kept getting away, it kept coming back. So we do get alerts on out-of-state cars if that state enters it nationwide.
It's just how they enter it. So, any more?
Yes.
Back in October of last year, we had a big snowfall, and you guys came up to give the town council presentation on number of tickets and whatnot. And the subject came up, how many tickets were written? I think you said about 400.
It may be. I don't know the number off the
Whatever,
top.
but then the follow-up was how many of those 400 were the $100 newly passed enhanced tickets for habitual parking violators? And the message, Fletcher said something kind of, I didn't know if I bought that. But,
So you're accusing Deputy Chief Fletcher of being dishonest with you?
well, we'll find out.
So you can stop. If you want to be professional and ask a question, but when you challenge his integrity, you can just stop. So do you have a real question? Go ahead.
My question is, I talked to my alderwoman about that.
Yep.
She said she was going to talk to you
Yep.
about what's going to take to implement that.
So there is a technical requirement in the law that is difficult to meet, and correct me where I go astray. It's not the officer on scene has to know that the first ticket has already been issued, which is extremely difficult for that officer at that time to know.
I called a vendor up who does this,
Yep.
it in this block, and they are working with another municipality to get that done. I understand the difficulty, well, we do it now, it's possible.
Yep, then we would love to hear about it. Just shoot us an email or whatever you want, and we'll research it. Everything comes with a cost. So if it's costly, it would be difficult to do, but we're interested in any way to find solutions.
Glad to hear you're welcome.
Yep. Does not mean we will do what you want. It means we will listen to what you want and research it. Okay. Any other questions? And if you have questions, I won't yell at you. All right. All right. All right. Thank you for, go ahead, Karen.
How was West Dallas able to land Kamala Harris?
We don't ask to land it, it just lands.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I was part of the crew that put that together, and you're told, this is the site that it's coming to. So then we do what we do.
And it's interesting, so I used to be the dignitary commander for Milwaukee for a brief period of time. I've been involved in these for decades as a cop or a lieutenant. or a captain. I have never seen one with this short of notice in my life. I do not know why they picked it. I know they were looking, very last minute, they told us they were looking at another site in the area that they did not ultimately approve. And then it got parlayed into West Dallas Central, so we had 16 hours lead time to get officers to come in, get help from other agencies. DPW in this city was outstanding. Whenever the vice president or the president comes, you have to block access to streets. So it typically involves big equipment like garbage trucks. So we were calling Director Webking at 10:30 at night, and he's already getting things moving for the next morning. So yeah, it was a challenging visit. We would prefer more advance notice, but did not get it.
I live across the street.
Yeah,
My backyard butts up against the parking lot.
yep,
And the only thing that I heard from neighbors was the parking, that
Yep.
some people, not everybody.
yeah,
was real serious about it, like blocking our driveways and
yep, 100%, yeah.
And we had officers, because we got complaints during it, and because I had phone contact with dispatch during some of it, and I asked, because it was one of the first ones I heard come out, and there was, I knew what it was from, I knew why, and it was the simple, well, what are we gonna do? Well, send a squad, ticket it like anybody, just because the vice president's coming to town, doesn't mean you can park in front of somebody's driveway. So we did what we could, we knew, they knew, everyone knew that the location that they picked was not ideal for different reasons, but it was thrown together so fast. It was our concern, everybody's concern was getting her here and out safely. The rest, we understand is a difficulty for everybody, but the biggest concern was how do we plan to get her and mitigate any potential issues in such a short time, and still have a safe event, which she came and she went, and by all accounts, everything went well. It does irritate some neighborhoods, but in the end, her safety was paramount, so we just had to get that part done. So we did as much as we could with what we had in a very short period of time.
So kudos to you and DPW.
Yeah. Yeah, State Fair.
And fire was a
Yep.
part of it.
Police, so you, for all part, we had really a lot of help from other agencies. State Fair assisted us. Everybody was really great. They knew that we were in a pinch, and everybody just, we do what we do in the police department is we get stuff done. We don't have a choice. So you expect it, my chief expects it, my deputy chief expects it. We just have to make it happen. So that's what we did. We made it happen. Everything turned out as well as it could.
Any other questions? All right, thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.